Hello and welcome to another episode of Woodworking with Mr. Kevin. And here is Mr. Kevin.
Hello. So in today's video, we're going to finish up where we left off last week, putting together that light box. And then we're going to spend most of this video building a feather jig. That's right, we're going to build a jig to put your feathers in. Ooh. So when you pluck a bird, you could actually put a feather in a board.
Nice.
No. This jig that I have right here is the best that I've made so far. I made one probably 20 some odd years ago, and I'm going to show you here in a second what it looks like. That's ginormous. And now, after 20 some odd years later, thinking about it, it's like, I don't need something that big. I need something small and compact that I can put on the wall that's a little bitty, that doesn't take up this much space, because I don't have this much space. I got like maybe this much space, and that's what I made down here. Here it is. See this? Yeah, let's build something like this and put it in our itty bitty little tiny ass shop. Said no one ever. This thing took me probably 4.5 hours to build. I could put a hope chest in there and put feathers in the hope chest because it's so freaking big. I mean, the thing's like 24 by 30. It's a monster. Today's jig's tiny. Does the exact same thing. It doesn't have all the fancy blocks and stop blocks and little adjuster knobs and all that other crap. But this works just as good. Be prepared. Here we go. This is going to be a doozy. Hello, I'm back. So I got a piece of sapele right here. I planed it to 1/4 of an inch. It'll fit inside this little box here that we're going to glue up here in a second. First, we have to put a 1/4 inch dado in here. I'm going to hold it back about 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8. Before I do all that and dado this on the table saw, you got to label everything. So I labeled all the corners. Okay, that way I don't have to search for the grain again. We also have to lay out the lights. And then we're going to drill these guys out here, and we should be good to go. And then later on this afternoon or tomorrow, we're going to put the slip feathers in here. We have our piece right here. What we have to do is set this guy. I have a top dead center line there. I don't know if you can see that on the video or not. See that? That means that this tooth is at its highest point when it's on that line. There's a whole video on that somewhere. And we're looking for 3.125. Put this back to 3/8 of an inch. This blade is exactly 1/8 of an inch thick. Now I'm going to move this to 1/2 inch. I'm going to run this again, see if it works. Ready? Here we go. There it is. You don't have to have it super stiff, but it's on there, okay? It comes off really easy, so we know that's good. So I got all my pieces here, so everything's sitting just the way you want to cut it. There it is. It should hold itself in there and not just drop right out. That's how snug it needs to be, okay? So the next thing we got to do is we're going to drill some holes from this into here. We're going to use this as a template. That way we know they should line up perfectly. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to eyeball the whole thing in there. That looks pretty damn good. So this is actually going to be reattached to the wall with screws sticking out of it. We're just going to drill these by hand because I don't really care. Use big ass tapered bit. Do the same over here. We'll drill them out through the front too. So they're nice and loose. Should we see if they fit here? Okay. Yes, sir, they stick out. Okay, the next thing we got to do is drill these guys. They're probably 3/8 or something like that. 3/8 will work. We got to figure a distance in that doesn't look stupid. We'll go with 3 inches maybe. So 3 inches in here and 1 in the center. So now we're going to drill these out. You can set this up in the drill press and drill them out all bitchin' and beautiful. Except the drill press is a freaking mess. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a 3/4 inch Forstner bit, just a little bit. And the reason I do the just a little bit part is because I want this to grab the freaking nut. That's like barely 3/8 of an inch, and this is a 1/4 inch. So I want the nut to get on there a little more, just so we have something to grab onto. All right, now I need the big glasses. I got my Marvin glasses on. The thing about these Forstner bits is there's a point on them. You can just line them up and go. And that one is dull as shit. See that? Little tiny indentation. That's what we want. That worked better. Whew. They're all relatively the same depth. I'm just eyeballing it, trying to get it as flat and as square in there as possible. This is 3/8. This one we're going to go all the way through with. I'm going to follow the same holes that was there before. Always use a backup hunk of wood. It just keeps from blowing out super bad. I don't think this one's ever been used because it's sharp as hell. Ooh, and there it is. I just want to see if I can tighten this up, because if I can do it now, I can do it later. There it is. We're learning how to hijack electrical parts and put them in your woodworking projects. That's awesome. It's in there good. It's beautiful. I think what I also might do is I might just go ahead and stain this before I glue this up, because it'll be easier to deal with. The old carpenter's staining trick. If you got panels of any kind like this, stain them ahead of time. It makes it better, especially for dark stains. I'm gonna sand, stain, get this all sanded up, and I'll see you in a minute. All right, we got the Type Bond 3, give it the old shake up, put it together, there it is. The grain matches all the way around. It's a grain matching miracle. Lay that there, we're gonna flop these like that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue up all the pieces and parts here. I'm gonna try not to put too much glue right in here. It can come out the face, it can come out the back. This one's coming out the frickin' side for some god dang reason. What the hell is that? This thing is just, look at this. Like a bird turd. All right, we're gonna do this twice because oak has a tendency to suck the glue in like nobody's business. We're gonna try not to glue the panel in. You want the panel to expand by itself. If it sucks in too much glue, then we'll add more glue. If it doesn't, we're just gonna leave it the way it is. You can pretty much take glue like this, put it on there, push this in with your finger until it disappears. That's how porous it is. I can just keep pushing on it. You could stuff the crap out of this thing with glue and I'll have a stronger joint that way. We'll take a look at all of them before we finish up here. And that one sucked up some of the glue already, so we're just gonna put a little more in here. Yeah, you can see. Okay, there we go. Down like this here. Get in the hole, you big dummy. There it is. God. Shazam. Okay, now for the magic. Now for the magic. Oh. All right, now for the magic. All right. Attach one end down here. Make sure that seam looks sort of good, and then pull it. It's gonna start moving all over the damn place. Just the way it is. We're gonna start at the bottom and kind of work our way around. No glue splooge on the inside, and that's good. Here the panel, it's loose in there. Here, it's wiggling, so it can expand and contract. You don't want to lock this panel in. It moves just slightly. So now that we got that, we're gonna let it sit for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we're gonna cut the 3 slip feathers in here, and then we can put it up because I keep trying to flip on the light in the bathroom, and it's dark in there, and I got a flashlight so I could pee. Hello, welcome back. 2 weeks later, and I'm finally getting to this. And I just pulled the tape off, and now we're ready to sand the outside of this. And so once we sand all this, we're gonna build ourselves a slip feather jig. Something that all of you out there with some scrap wood could build. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm building here, but you'll get the gist of it when we put it all together. So I'm gonna show you how to make all these parts, just using scrap. I've got some 5/8 MDF right here, and I got a piece of duck. And we have a piece of 1/2-inch birch plywood. It's just all scrap that was laying around, but we can make jigs out of it. The only thing you have to make sure of is that your wood is flat. Use something as flat as you can find, and that'll all be good. I got some scrap pieces of oak over there. I'm gonna show you how the whole thing's built. I'll put a little plan up when it's all said and done after I build the damn thing and we make sure it works. All right, got our parts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a sled for this to ride on like this at a 45-degree angle. So I think I'm gonna use the 5/8 for the bottom. So we're gonna start with the base, and we're gonna go from there. Now we're gonna figure this part out here. I have these right here. Look at that, fits right in there. That's the next thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rip this to 3/8 of an inch. I need something bigger than this. It's just barely below the table's height. So now we could attach this to there. We're gonna put the kerf side to the plywood. I'm gonna ease these edges too. Okay, so I'm gonna hold it flush to the outside edge. Put a couple screws in here. It looks good. Now that I got all the reference holes in there, I'm just going to countersink them slightly. You want them to be flush. You don't want the screws sticking out in any way. I'm using some Type-On melamine wood glue. Just gonna use a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't come squirting out like craziness. Just start these by hand a little bit here. Let's tighten these up. Hopefully they don't poke through. If they poke through, we can always file them off. Hopefully they won't. Okay, that's in there. And it slides just beautifully, right? If it wasn't in line with the fence, I wouldn't be able to push it all the way through like this. It would bind up. The next thing we should do is probably add this to the front. Not to the front here, but up here. And the reason for that is when we go to cut through this, it's basically we'll cut through the entire jig. And this is just to prevent it from falling apart. I'm gonna put a strong arm at the top like this here and go from there. Probably gonna drill like 4 holes, 2 on this side and 2 on this side, and stay away from where this is here. So between 4 and 6 inches, we won't have anything. What I'm doing now is I'm just taking my pencil and I'm gonna mark 3/8 of an inch. And over here, 3/8 of an inch. So the 3/8 is the center of this. This is 3/4. So that'll be the center of that when it's all flush on the end. You wanna hold it just a skosh off the fence, and we'll just clamp these into place. You don't want the screw heads sticking out. You want them to be as flush as possible. Everything's flush. All right, this will sit in here like this. You see that little gap in there? I'm just gonna attach this one the same way. I'll be right back. So here's the next thing we need to do. We need to make a cradle. So the piece that we're cutting will actually sit like on a 45-degree angle. And that way when we cut this, the blade will be coming through here and it will cut equally. If it's on a different angle, it's going to be bigger on one side than the other. You want it 45 degrees, the best you can. Oh, I just had a thought.
A few moments later.
Oh, I'm going to try this, okay?
Really?
So we don't have to raise the blade so high so we don't cut through this crap. Instead of putting two pieces of wood together like this, usually what you do is you make something like this, right? And it looks like that, a little V-shaped thing. So instead of doing this, I think I'm actually gonna cut these to 45 degrees and lay them down so they're as close to the deck as possible. I'm getting all excited, holy crap. This base here is at 11. I'm gonna mill the carriage to like 10 3/4. And then I'm gonna miter the ends to 45 degrees, and then I'm gonna put triangles behind them, and we'll attach it all, because that way it's closer. I don't have to raise the blade up as high. That's better for these strong backs here so we don't cut through them. And if that's sitting right on the deck, and that'd be great. See how things work in your brain? My brain starts thinking, well, how can I get that blade lower? And it just comes to you.
Super genius.
All right, so I'm gonna take this right now. I'm just gonna cut through this and stop it here somewhere. I just wanna see something. Yeah, it stopped. Still strong, still together. Whoop, and that's how that's gonna work. And if I could stop it here without getting back here all together, I won't have to worry about my hands so much. I'm gonna put something like this up here so I can't get my hands down in there, because that would just suck. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna find the center of this guy, 24 3/4. We're just gonna go in, I'm gonna come in here 12 inches. I know, Squeakers is always telling me stuff to do. Oh, you should do it like this. What does she know? See, now this blade is really low off the deck, but that would work perfect for this guy right here for the first cut.
Nice.
So that way we don't have to raise the blade up so much. The higher you raise the blade, the more you got to cut through all this, and the more endangered your fingers are. So for all of you woodworkers out there, tell me this. I've got 4 of these. There's supposed to be one there, one here, one over near the bandsaw, one over near my edge sander, and they all wind up over there. I think they have a secret meeting at night, and that's what they do. Okay, now that would work. And this would go in there like that. Is that enough to hold it? Maybe. Free thinking. Can you hear my brain burning up? I'm gonna come in like 10. And 10 back here would leave plenty of room there. It's always good to have lots of squares. So I'm gonna put this line here, which is totally squared, all that. And that's where I'm gonna miter this piece here. And this will be 10 inches there. And we're gonna screw them into the bottom and then screw that into the face of that. And that'll help hold it square. Here I go, I shall see you shortly. Put that at 45 degrees. Just like that. Okay, that's 10 inches. Now, is that big enough? I think that's big enough. This one's 14 inches to the point. What's the point? That's a little too big. I'm gonna make them both 10. Okay, so these two are gonna sit in here just like that. Just gotta get them square so they're not crooked, because if this is offset like this, you're gonna have some crooked ass feathers. We'll do one side at a time, and we'll just make sure we get them right. We're gonna make triangles like this. I'm gonna cut 8 of them real quick, or as many as I can get out of here, and we'll just use this. Okay, so out of that one board, we made a bunch of 6-inch pieces. That's all that's left. These are hardly out at all. This one was a little weird. They're all within tolerance, okay? It might be off by like a 32nd of an inch. This is a quick jig video, right? It's already probably taking 20 minutes for me to do this. Now the fun part. This is 10 inches or so. It's pretty close to that line that we drew, right? So I'm gonna use this as a spacer to attach these here. Like we did the screws over here, we're gonna try to keep these out of the way and try to spread these up pretty evenly. But we're gonna take this and we're gonna butt that into there, and I'm gonna put 2 on one side and 2 on the other. They don't have to be perfect, we're just gonna eyeball them. Okay, something like that. I'm just gonna mark the very front up here like this, somewhere there. I've just marked the right side edge only. Now we're just gonna take our square and we're just gonna set it up. Just draw a line to whatever that is. We have that all marked out. We're gonna do the same on the other side. I should have done them both at the same time, shouldn't I? Well, that's what you get for thinking too smartly, stupid.
Loser.
My dad used to say something, if you had brains, you'd be dangerous. Yeah, he ain't kidding. Okay, now that we have all that marked, that's where our ribs are gonna go. Now guess what we have to do? We have to come over 3/8 of an inch and drill a hole, and these are gonna be our screw hole marks. These are, I think, 5/8, so we gotta come in 5/16. So I'm gonna set my square to 5/16 here. I'm just gonna use one as a reference mark. That's right in the center. And what I'll do is I'll circle each one that I'm gonna drill. Okay, I'm gonna mark all these in red so you can see them. That's where we're gonna drill a hole, and then we're gonna put these in place. Now we're gonna transfer these lines onto the back of these. So when we flip it over like this, we're gonna have everything lined up equally. Okay, I'm just gonna transfer these lines here. We're just gonna do it like this to start with. We're just gonna put these two together, make sure they're square together, and we're just gonna put a mark. Then we're gonna do it like this. Okay, we did all that, yay. And we're just gonna run these lines like this. All right, so now if I did this right, these should all line up. We got a lot of drilling to do. Hopefully we've marked them far enough in to where we're not poking through here and it's not gonna break this open. So when you screw it together, you wanna make sure you tapered bit long enough where it's right at the end of the screw so it doesn't split the MDF, because MDF sucks. I'm gonna go over there and drill them out, and I'll see you guys in a minute. So now we have to assemble stuff. Penciled everything in, and I drilled all those frickin' holes, and I went and countersunk them from the back. I labeled this one left. So this one's gonna go like so. Okay, I got all the lines down with the lines, and I built that one and I didn't film it. But I'll show you how I put it together using this guy right here. These lines here will line up with these ribs here when they're attached here. I'm gonna show you how to build this section right here. I'm gonna probably turn the camera down and show you all the little tips and tricks for how to get these all flushed together and what I did to actually clamp them into place and all that. So here's what we have. All right, we got our counter stink bit. So we're gonna use 1¼ inch screws to screw this on. We have X's where all of these ribs go. So I'm gonna hold that there. I'm gonna move this out here like this. You want your clamp on there as square as you possibly can get it, straight up and down. See how that is? And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip this over and pre-drill it. Do one at a time, okay? Don't be in a hurry. Make sure they're flush. Check your squareness with your pencil mark. Flip it over and do the exact same thing. Pre-drill, pre-drill and fill. There you go. Now we're gonna do this side over here. It's lined up, it looks beautiful, it's square. All the old fart tips and tricks. Pre-drill, fill it with 1¼ inch screws. All right, there we are, we're done.
What?
No, we got 2 more. Now what are we gonna do? If they're all the same, okay, and they're all flush to the front here, all of them, the back should be the same also. So I'm taking a piece of scrap wood with one good edge on it. I'm gonna set that on these 2 right here. Take a spring clamp, and we're gonna spring clamp this into place like so. Okay, that's gonna be our backstop, because now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this guy, lining this up with a line, and I'm just holding it with my hands, and I'm gonna drill and fill. Lucky Phil, you know, he gets to drill everybody. Okay, and then put a screw in it. It moved a little bit. Just straighten it right back up, drill and fill. And there it is. Okay, we'll do it again. We get lined up on the line. This one's flush here. I'm just pushing down on it with my fingers to hold it in place. And we just lose this. There we go. So the 2 outside, you clamp, little Jorgensen clamp, hold it in place. You can find them on my website, isellcrap.com. That's coming soon, because I got to retire, you know, and I can't just do this with my pretty looks and my smarts, because that won't work. All right, let's assemble this thing, see how it goes together. All right, I'm going to flip the camera back around. See you in a minute. I highlighted it, but it really didn't work. So there's the dead center. I'm going to set these down on here. All the lines line up with the ribs, and ribs line up with the lines. So that one goes there. This one, mark left, goes here. Ta-da! This is just gonna hold it like that. So we're gonna attach all this crap together now. So that's basically it, and you're done. Welcome. Thank you. Thank me very much. And now we gotta figure out how to screw these 2 together. And you can't have it crooked, because if you have it crooked on there, you're screwed. Look, it's got a bubble. It had the farts, did you hear it? Ooh, that smells good. All right, I'm gonna put a little melamine glue, just a little bit. Whee, there we go. Just a little bit of melamine glue. Stick it on the line. Whee. It's very slippery now. We have 1-inch pins in here. I'm gonna put 1 pin in here. I'm gonna put my thumb back here to hold it in place, because it's gonna rock a little bit. Nice and square. I'm gonna put the square back here. I'm gonna lock it in place with one of these guys, just so it holds it in place. Okay, put it on a slight angle. All right, that's on there, but now we have to attach the back here. So I'm gonna put a clamp on this guy. Hopefully the front doesn't pop open, which it could do, you never know. Okay, now we have it in this position. All right, we have 1.5-inch screws. We're not putting any screws in the front, we're gonna put them in the back here. Make sure the lines line up with the lines. Now hopefully when we put this together, it won't explode. We'll find out right now. Sucked it right down to the ground. All right, I'm gonna go down here now. We're gonna do this one down here. Now we should be able to pop these off. That's got to remain square. So if you check that and it's out of whack, do some adjusting before you put all the rest of the screws in there. And we're just going to screw these 2 together. Alrighty, now we have the right side, which goes up here. And we're done. So before we go any farther, just going to double, triple check.
That's perfect.
Put a little juice on there, just a little bit of melamine glue. Put it up there like that. Hope I didn't go through the bottom. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna sand the bottom. Just really quick. I have 320 on here. That's what I'm just gonna get rid of the bumps. I'm just gonna take some 150 real quick. So the reason I'm doing this is for my own good, because at my age, you bang your knuckle on something, you bleed for an hour. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this over to the table saw and we're gonna slice it open and we're gonna give her a little slice of life. All right, there it is. Here's the bottom. We have our miter gauge slot that goes right in here. Slide this in here. That should work. Let's raise her up a little bit here. That's probably pretty good. Just crank her on and see what happens. See that little tiny hole it made? So here's what we're gonna do next. I'm gonna raise this up and then we're gonna write down on here how high the blade needs to be for the blade to stick through here at a certain distance. So if I want a 1/2 inch feather, we're gonna raise this up until we get a 1/2 inch here, and I'm gonna write that down. This blade needs to be 1 inch to equal a 1/2 inch or whatever it is. To do that, we have our famous Wixie. Let's just take this all the way up to 1 inch. This is exactly 1 inch. We're gonna make a cut. See, it left a little cut in there. Now what we're gonna do, I got this piece of walnut. We're just gonna set the walnut in there. That's what it does. So that depth of that cut is 7/16. So 1 inch up equals 7/16. But here's the problem. I got the wrong blade in there now. So we're gonna switch over to the square blade. I'm gonna leave it where it is and see if it's the same. That's an alternating tooth blade right there. So when you go to put that in place, you're gonna wind up seeing a little V in there. So we're gonna switch that out. That's 7/16, so right now 1 inch equals 7/16. Run it through and see if they're the same. So it's a big difference. So the rip blade from end to end is actually 9/16. Now we're going to adjust this. So I'm going to lower this down. So this blade is bigger than the last blade. So the Freud diameter of their blades are different. All right, let me lower you down again. Okay, since the diameters aren't the same on all their blades, we're going to try this again. It says it's millimeters. I don't want millimeters, you pile of poop. I'm going to actually raise this up until it hits 1 inch. That's a 1/2 inch. That's pretty damn close. It's pretty close and it's pretty right on. So since they're just slip feathers and we're off by like a 1/64 of an inch, we're just gonna call that good. And I'm gonna write on here. So 1 inch up equals a 1/2 inch there. So that means that if we go up 1 1/4, it should equal 3/4, right? We're pretty close to it. And then we'll go to 1 1/2 inches equals 1 inch. All right, so let's try that. So we're gonna make a 3/4 inch slip feather. We're going to raise this up to 1 1/4. That's close enough. That's probably as high as the blade's ever going to go. Because usually when making jewelry boxes, your sides are just either 5/8 or 3/4 at the most. If you do any more than that, it'll go through the corners. 1 1/4 high, this should be just about 3/4 of an inch. And that's what it is. Pretty damn cool. So when you place that in there, you get it nice and snug. It'll be in there nice and square. That's how tight you want them. You want them that snug. Alakazam, alakazoo. Oh, man, that was something else, wasn't it? That wore me out just watching it. We're gonna stop the video right here. It's long enough. These long videos take forever for me to edit. Sometimes it takes me 2 weeks just to get it to so where it makes sense because it's me making these stupid videos. I thought I'd have time, a couple of weeks to work on my bathroom because there was no work. And like magic, like this, beep, work just appeared. One little job after another, install after craziness. And I'm very thankful for the work, but it's hard to do real life work in YouTube because YouTube's not real life. I mean, it might be for some people. For me, no. I'm a contractor. So in the next video, we're gonna learn how to use that feather jig, how to set it up on the table saw, what we're gonna look for, how to set the heights and all that stuff. And then we're gonna glue up the feathers. We'll cut them off, sand them off, stain them up, and we're gonna go install everything. And once I get it installed, we're gonna start on something else. We'll keep things going. I gotta try to make these videos shorter and smaller so I can actually get them out more, because when I do things like this, I've got hours and hours of video that I poke through and try to make sense out of, because I talk too much.
Really?
You ever notice that? I talk way too much. I've worked all day. It's 5:30 and I've been talking for a half hour. Oh my goodness. All right, everybody, you have an awesome day. Go outside and play. Hug somebody you love. Be safe out there, and I'll see you next time right here on Woodworking with Mr. Kevin. The next video will be whatever, I don't know. It'll be doing the backstroke. We're gonna do the backstroke out of here. Whee! All right, everybody, you have an awesome day, and we'll see you soon. You can go home now. It's over. It's all over. The sun's out. I'm gonna go sit in the hot tub. See ya.
Subscribe now.